on Russia, so there's going to be a call with the Europeans this afternoon with President Biden. I was wondering, this was asked in the White House briefing as well, but if you could shed light a little bit on what the administration hopes to achieve through this call. And we've heard President Biden last week publicly acknowledge the cracks within NATO alliance as well as with the Europeans on how exactly to respond. Has there been any improvement since then with the Europeans? Are you closer to being on the same page, and is there any reason for us to expect that after this call you will be sort of, more on the same page on how to respond to minor incursion or major incursion, whatever that may be?
Okay. Humaira, as you know, we were in Europe last week. We were in Kyiv. We then went to Berlin, where in addition to meeting with our German allies, the Secretary had an opportunity to meet with the so-called European Quad. Before that, we were in Europe the previous month, where we had an opportunity to meet with our NATO allies, with the OSCE. In the intervening weeks, the Secretary, the Deputy Secretary, the Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, not to mention the President, the National Security Advisor, and many others were on the phone constantly with allies and partners to discuss this Russian aggression and the response. And I want to take issue with the premise of your question, because in all of those engagements, the in-person engagements, the conversations, the video conferences, in every single one of those engagements, we have heard, and you in turn have heard from not only us, but from our European allies and partners, individual allies, NATO, the OSCE, the G7, the European Union, the European Council. You have heard the same message. If any Russian forces move across the border, that's a renewed invasion. It will be met with a swift, severe, and united response on the part of the United States and on the part of our allies. So there is no ambiguity about that. There is no ambiguity. There is no daylight. We know that, and importantly, the Russian Federation knows that.
Right. So, thank you. There's quite a bit of daylight, but I'm not going to entertain that for too long. I'm wondering, can you shed a little bit light on what you guys want to achieve with this particular meeting, and then I'm going to go on to the non-paper.
Well, let me come back to your flippant remark, and maybe it was just intended to be a flippant remark, but I couldn't resist.
No, it's just, the president has said that there are differences of opinion, and this has been something that we've been experiencing, we've been seeing.
What you have heard from the president, what you have heard from the secretary, what you have heard from the National Security Advisor, what you have heard from others, is that in the event of Russian aggression against Ukraine, there will be a response. It will be swift. It will be severe. In the event of an incursion, it will be unprecedented in terms of the steps we are prepared to take. And you can say that there's daylight, but I hope you also take a look and listen to the statements that have emanated from European capitals, the statements that have emanated from NATO, from the OSCE, from the G7, from the European Commission, from the United States, from our allies standing next to Secretary Blinken, whether that was Foreign Minister Baerbock, whether it was other allies and partners with whom we have met in recent weeks and over the past 2 months. So one can claim there is daylight, but certainly if you take a look at the volume and the material that is prominently within the public record, I think that would belie that assertion.
Are you guys going to be sending this non-paper like this week? Can you talk a little bit about the technicalities of that, what it would entail?
So as the Secretary said on Friday, we do expect to be in a position to send a written response this week. Before we do that, and what we are doing right now, and this gets to your earlier question about the engagement with our European allies and partners, what we have been doing, as you know and as you've seen, is constant coordination and consultation with our allies and partners on the other side of the Atlantic. We've been doing this in terms of the unprecedented, swift, strong, severe, united response that Russia would endure in the event of further aggression, but we've also been doing it in the context of the written response that we will provide to the Russian Federation, just as we've been doing it in response to what we've been saying about areas where there may be the potential for progress on reciprocal steps that could enhance our collective security. And by collective security, I mean the security of the transatlantic community, but also potentially address some of the concerns that Russia has put forward. So as we consider the next step in our engagement, and that is in fact the provision of a written response to the Russian Federation, we are sharing those ideas with we have shared those ideas with our European allies and partners. We are taking their feedback. We are incorporating that feedback into the written response, and when we're prepared to transmit it, we will. I do expect that will be this week. Francesca.